The audition that changed everything. My name is Ethan Riley, and if someone had told me 6 months ago that my entire life would pivot on a casting call, I would have laughed them out of the room. I was 23, a junior copywriter at a mid-size ad agency in downtown Chicago. Life was fine. Not thrilling, not miserable. Just the gray kind of routine that blurs the days. I lived with my older cousin Zara, a spirited photographer with a laugh that could shake a room and opinions sharper than any lens she owned. We shared a loft that still smelled like film chemicals and takeout. One foggy Thursday morning, as I sipped bitter instant coffee and scrolled through my email, Zara barged into the kitchen waving a magazine. "Ethan, look. This casting notice, this is your thing." She shoved the open page in front of me. The headline read, "Open audition. New indie feature seeks fresh talent." I raised an eyebrow. "You know I'm not an actor, right? You're dramatic." "Close enough," she smirked, pouring almond milk into my coffee like it was some kind of holy ritual. "Besides, it's a long shot. But long shots make good stories." And I, like a fool with nothing to lose, decided to send in my headshot. I had one from a Halloween ad campaign last year where I was dressed like a haunted Victorian poet. Zara said I looked elegantly haunted. I figured that was enough. To my shock, I got a call 2 weeks later. The casting office was in a nondescript brick building downtown. Inside, the room buzzed with hopefuls. Some chatted nervously. Others practiced lines. Me? I tried not to vomit. That's when I met Callan, charismatic, handsome, and already charming the receptionist with his grin. We exchanged a few nervous words, bonded over our shared lack of experience, and made a pact to not faint during our auditions. Callan was called in first. 20 minutes later, I walked into the room expecting disaster. But the director, Morgan Vale, a well-dressed woman in her early 40s with piercing eyes, didn't make me read lines. "Ethan," she said, tapping her pen thoughtfully. "Do you mind if we ask you something a little unorthodox?" I blinked. Sure." She smiled. "Would you be open to exploring a role that's a bit outside your current self-image?" That should have been a red flag. But something in her tone didn't sound mocking, it sounded like an invitation. 2 days later, I got a call from Morgan herself. "We've cast Callan as our male lead," she said. "But we haven't found someone for our other main role yet. It's unique." I stayed silent. It's a lead character named Valentina, a transgender woman navigating love, transition, and performance in a world that refuses to see her clearly. It's raw. It's vulnerable. And I think you could bring her to life. My mouth dried. "You want me to play a trans woman?" "Yes, because you carry a softness that doesn't mock femininity. You observe. You feel. And I think there's something inside you that wants to break free." I didn't know what to say. I asked for time. That night, I sat in the living room as Zara flopped on the couch beside me, chewing a granola bar like it was gum. "I can't believe this," I mumbled. "She wants me to play a woman. A trans woman." Zara blinked, then grinned. "You're kidding. That's actually amazing." I frowned. What if people laugh at me? What if I mess it up and offend the entire community? She leaned in, eyes serious now. "Then you do the work. You listen. You learn. And you act with care. Ethan, you have the chance to do something powerful. Or you can keep writing perfume slogans." That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I made the call. "Morgan. I'm in." Her voice lit up. "Welcome aboard, Valentina." I laughed nervously. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." "Oh, I'm serious," she replied. "Prep starts this weekend. You'll have support. We've assigned someone to help you embody the role, an actress and advocate named Nova Quinn." "Wait, the Nova Quinn? The documentary star?" "Yes," Morgan said with a smile in her voice. "She's eager to meet you." Nova showed up that Saturday afternoon. She was elegance in motion, tall, poised, magnetic. She wore a long maroon coat and silver earrings shaped like question marks. When she first saw me, she tilted her head. "You're cuter than I expected." Thanks," she laughed. "Relax, kid. I'm here to teach you how to walk in heels, wear confidence like eyeliner, and maybe, just maybe, unpack who you are beneath the character." That last part made me swallow hard. Over coffee and jokes, we started my transformation. Not just physical, but emotional. She asked me to journal every night in the voice of Valentina. To spend days in character. To wear what Valentina would wear, not as a costume, but as an identity. Zara brought me one of her old dresses. You're borrowing it, not stealing it, she winked. And so, one rainy Sunday, I stood in front of the mirror wearing a soft blue dress, light makeup, and a pair of clip-on earrings. And for the first time, I didn't see Ethan pretending. I saw someone I hadn't met yet, someone beautiful, someone uncertain, someone brave. I saw her. Becoming Valentina. It's strange how quickly something can stop feeling like play and start feeling like truth. By the end of my first week preparing for the role of Valentina, the act of stepping into her shoes, literally and metaphorically, was already beginning to blur with something deeper. Zara noticed it first. You sat down the way I do, she said casually one evening, halfway through an episode of some crime drama. The dress thing, the wrist thing. You're not just acting anymore, are you? I paused mid-sip of my tea, unsure of how to respond. I'm getting into the role. She didn't push. She just smiled, like she knew something I hadn't yet figured out. Nova, on the other hand, pushed hard. You've got the look, she said one afternoon while adjusting the strap of my camisole. But if you don't understand why Valentina walks through the world the way she does, you'll never convince anyone, not even yourself. She sat cross-legged across from me, her presence commanding but warm. You need to feel her isolation, her courage, her joy, her fear. Not imitate it, live it. How do I do that? I asked. I'm not her. Nova smirked. Aren't you? I didn't answer. Instead, she handed me a small notebook. Starting tomorrow, you'll spend each day as Valentina. Full-time. No Ethan. Voice, walk, everything. You're not pretending anymore. You're being. I hesitated. Even at the grocery store? Especially at the grocery store. The next morning, I dressed with purpose. A soft beige sweater dress Zara had outgrown, paired with opaque tights and ankle boots. I practiced light makeup under Nova's guidance. When I stepped into the kitchen, Zara froze mid-pour of her cereal milk. You look incredible. I felt seen in a way I didn't have language for. We walked to the corner cafe together. I passed 3 people who looked right through me, and one who glanced a second too long. My pulse pounded, but I kept walking. At the cafe, the barista smiled. Hi ma'am, what can I get you? Ma'am. That single word hit me like a piano chord in a silent room. I ordered a chai. My voice cracked a little. The barista didn't blink. I returned to our table, sat down, and just breathed. Zara reached across and squeezed my hand. You okay? She whispered. I don't know, I admitted. But I don't want to take this off. That night, Nova invited me to a small LGBTQ plus open mic event she frequented. You need to see people living their truths. It'll help you understand who Valentina is, and maybe who you are too. The place was tucked into a bookstore basement lit with string lights and layered in mismatched chairs and beanbags. A trans man with a ukulele sang about surviving family dinners. A non-binary poet read a piece titled, I Used to Be a Son. The room buzzed with warmth, truth, and scars. Then Nova took the mic. I brought someone tonight, she said, gesturing toward me. She's preparing for a role. But more than that, she's preparing to meet herself. The spotlight found me. My cheeks flushed. A few people clapped. I waved nervously. Hi. I paused. And then I said it. I'm Valentina. Back home, I sat in front of the mirror for a long time, still dressed, makeup faded, hair a little frizzy. Zara knocked softly. Can I come in? I nodded. She sat on my bed and looked at me in the mirror's reflection. That name. Valentina. It suits you. I felt my eyes sting. I think I've always wanted to be her. I just didn't know. Zara didn't cry. She never cried. But she hugged me tightly. Then be her. 2 weeks passed. Nova guided me through posture, vocal range, improvisation exercises. Be Valentina when you get the mail. Be Valentina when you stub your toe. Be her when no one's looking. And I was. Every day, I stepped further from Ethan and closer to someone that had lived deep inside me, waiting to be named. My walk changed. My speech softened. My laugh came out easier. Even Callan noticed. "You look different," he said during a rehearsal. Glowing. Comfortable. I smiled. "I feel, right?" Then came the first table read. Morgan had gathered the cast for a formal script read-through in a cozy rehearsal studio in the West Loop. Callan sat beside me, flipping through his notes. I caught him glancing at me when he thought I wouldn't notice. The script crackled with tension. There was a scene midway through where Valentina has to confront her own reflection, symbolic, raw, and vulnerable. As I read it aloud, something inside me trembled. The line read, "I wore the mask until it wore me." My voice shook. I paused. The room fell silent. Morgan didn't say anything. She just nodded, eyes wide. Afterwards, Callan walked me to my car. "You were her. That scene. That wasn't acting." I looked at him. It wasn't. He leaned against the car, studying me. "I know this might sound crazy, but I'm proud of you." My heart thudded. "Why?" "Because you're becoming someone most people are too scared to even meet." I didn't respond. But I didn't need to. A mirror that doesn't lie anymore. The night after our first table read, I sat at the kitchen island, still dressed as Valentina, soft sweater dress, pink nails, gold studs glinting under the dim pendant light above the counter. Zara was curled up on the couch, sipping wine, flipping through photo proofs from her last shoot. She looked up and smiled. "Still in character?" I met her eyes. "Not really. I just didn't feel like changing." She nodded slowly. "Because it's not a costume anymore, is it?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. In the following weeks, the line between the role and my real self blurred even further. Morning journaling as Valentina turned into journaling as me. Practicing lines in a femme voice became speaking that way without thinking. Tucking and padding for realism became shaping my daily comfort. And then came the dream. It was so vivid. I stood barefoot on a beach, wearing a white sundress fluttering in the wind. Callan walked toward me, smiling gently. He didn't say anything. He just took my hand and whispered, "You're already her." I woke up gasping and crying, because for the first time, I believed it. One rainy evening, Nova invited me to her apartment for dinner. It was filled with plants, jazz music, and books stacked on nearly every surface. She handed me a bowl of lentil stew and gestured for me to sit beside her on the floor. "You've crossed something," she said, watching me carefully. "You're not just preparing for the role anymore." I nodded. "I think I'm remembering who I've always been." Nova set her bowl aside. "That's a beautiful thing. But it's also terrifying. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you feel right, truly right, you'll never survive going back." "I don't want to go back," I whispered. She reached over and held my hand. "Then don't." A few days later, Morgan called a closed session for just me and Callan. The scene was a new edition written by Morgan after our first read-through. It was a late-night monologue where Valentina stands on a balcony, wondering if she's lovable or just tolerated. "You won't have lines for this," Morgan said softly. "Just feel it." I stood there, bathed in the glow of a single spotlight. The cityscape behind me was fake, but the feelings weren't. And when Callan approached from the shadows and whispered, "I see you," I broke. The tears came like floodgates. My knees buckled slightly. And for a moment, Valentina disappeared, and I was just me. Raw. Real. Seen. After rehearsal, Callan walked with me to my rideshare. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice careful. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "You scared me back there. But you were stunning." I turned to face him. "Callan, if I told you that I might not go back to who I was before this film, would that freak you out?" He paused. "Honestly, it would make a lot of sense." That surprised me. "You knew." He smiled. "I saw it happening before you did." I swallowed. "And does that change how you see me?" He stepped closer. "Yeah, now I see you more clearly." The next morning, I decided to come out to my parents. Zara sat across from me at the dining table, laptop open, coffee in hand. "I'm doing it today," I said. She looked up, startled. Are you sure? I don't know. But I have to. She reached for my hand. Then I've got your back. I FaceTimed them. My mom answered first. Ethan. Hi, sweetheart. And then she froze. I was fully dressed, hairstyled, soft blouse, earrings, light makeup. I looked like me. She blinked rapidly. Oh, is this for your movie? I took a breath. No, Mom. This is for me. My dad's face appeared next to hers on the screen. Son. I shook my head. Not anymore. I think. I've realized something through all this. I'm not pretending. I'm not acting. She is who I am. The silence was thunderous. Then my mom whispered, What's your name? The question nearly broke me. I don't know yet, I said, tears slipping down. But I know it's not Ethan. And then my dad, usually the gruff one, said, We love you. That doesn't change. My mom added, We'll learn with you. I didn't expect that. But it was all I needed. Later that night, Zara sat with me as I tried name after name aloud. Nothing stuck. Nothing felt like mine. Until she said, How about Arya? I looked at her. It clicked. Soft. Musical. Real. Arya, I repeated. That's me. The next day on set, I signed into the call sheet. Under character name, it said, Valentina. Under actor name, I crossed out Ethan. And I wrote, Arya Riley. Callan noticed the change, said nothing, but offered a smile so warm, it melted every fear I'd carried. And from that moment on, the girl in the mirror didn't feel like a stranger anymore. She felt like home. The scene that wasn't in the script. The next week flew by in a blur of scenes, set calls, voice warm-ups, wardrobe fittings, and take after take. But something felt different now. I was no longer acting as Valentina. I was Arya, playing Valentina. And that subtle shift changed everything. The camera caught something new, something raw, unguarded, and magnetic. Even Morgan, our famously unreadable director, pulled me aside one evening after a shoot and said, You're not playing a character anymore. You're channeling truth. I smiled. That's the nicest thing you could have said. But even truth, when it starts changing your real life, can come with unexpected challenges. One of them arrived in the form of a text. Unknown number. Saw your face on that trailer clip. What the hell, man? You in drag now? LMAO. It was from my high school friend group's group chat. One I hadn't touched in over a year. I stared at the message for a long time. Zara noticed. You okay? I shrugged. Someone from my past. Doesn't matter. But it did. It always does. Later that night, I curled up under my duvet and scrolled through my social feeds. The teaser trailer had dropped that afternoon. There I was, Valentina, walking across a rainy street in heels, eyes glimmering under neon light. The comments section had exploded. Some were beautiful. Who is this actress? She's mesmerizing. Representation done right. Some were not. Why do we need more trans propaganda? LMAO, is that even a real girl? I turned off my phone and buried it under a pillow. The next day, we shot the emotional climax of the film, the confrontation scene between Valentina and her estranged brother. I hadn't expected it to shake me. But as the actor playing her brother shouted lines like, You're not the same person I grew up with, and this isn't who you're supposed to be, something cracked in me. Because those weren't just lines, they were echoes. Of doubts. Of fear. Of conversations I'd never had with some people I still loved. The camera kept rolling as I dropped to my knees and sobbed. Morgan called cut but didn't rush over. She just let the moment breathe. Callan finally stepped in, kneeling beside me. No words. Just a quiet hand on my back. Later, Morgan whispered, That take, that's the one. Back in the green room, I changed out of my costume slowly. Zara entered, holding a coffee she'd picked up for me. You okay? I nodded. I saw the trailer. The comments, too, she said. Yeah, I replied flatly. They don't matter, Arya. I looked at her, surprised she used my name without hesitation. They do matter, I admitted. But not as much as this. She smiled. That's growth, sis. That night, I got a DM on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. @LightInBetween, hi. I don't know you, but I just watched the trailer. I've been struggling with who I am for years. Seeing you made something click. Thank you. I stared at the message, hand over my mouth. For every cruel voice, there was someone in the shadows just waiting for a little light. I replied, thank you for saying that. You're not alone. And whoever you are, you're enough. Later, Callan offered to walk me to my car again. It had become our ritual. He leaned against the door and looked at me for a long time before speaking. I meant what I said before, he murmured. You're becoming someone brave. And someone I care about. I looked down. You know I'm not ready. Not fully. I know. I'm not rushing. But when you are, I'll be here. His gaze didn't flinch. And something inside me relaxed. Maybe it was safety. Or maybe it was the slow realization that I might actually deserve love, too. A week later, the final wrap party was announced. A celebration. A goodbye. A launch. Zara helped me pick an outfit, soft rose jumpsuit, heels, long curls framing my face. I'd never felt more me. As I stepped into the venue, the cast and crew applauded. Not just for Valentina, but for Arya. Morgan handed me a glass of sparkling cider. You transformed the role, and maybe yourself in the process. Maybe? I teased. She grinned. No, definitely. Then she stepped aside, revealing someone I hadn't expected to see. My mother, wearing her favorite shawl, holding a small wrapped box. I gasped, Mom? Zara grinned from behind, mouthing, surprise. My mother smiled and opened her arms. I ran into them. You're so beautiful, Arya, she whispered. I always knew there was something delicate about you. I just didn't know how to ask. I cried. So did she. She handed me the box. Inside was a silver necklace with a small V-shaped charm. For Valentina, she said. The character that brought you home to yourself. I didn't choose this ending. But I chose me. The wrap party didn't end that night. It lived in the warmth I carried for days after, through the way Callan brushed his hand gently against mine during our goodbyes, through the way my mother hugged me like she had always known I was Arya, through the way Morgan whispered, I hope you keep telling stories, even when there's no script. And yet, when the lights went down and the sets were struck, something else returned. Silence. The days grew quieter. My inbox stopped pinging. My wardrobe hung still. And that old voice in my head, the one I thought I'd silenced, crept in. Now what? I returned to the loft. Zara was already planning her next photo series, something about identity, reflection, and stillness. Want a model for me? She asked one morning over black coffee and silence. I don't know if I'm ready to be seen again, I replied. She gave me a long look. Arya, you've already been seen. Now the question is, do you want to be known? The film's release was scheduled for the fall festival circuit. Morgan called me with news. Toronto accepted us. I blinked. Like, Tiff? That Toronto. She laughed. Yes, that Toronto. Then her tone shifted. And Variety wants to do a feature story on you. About Arya. About the role. About everything. My mouth went dry. You okay? She asked gently. I don't know how to talk about all of this, I admitted. I'm still figuring out what part was Valentina and what part was just me finally being honest. Then tell them that, she said. The world doesn't need polished answers. They need truth. The magazine interview took place in a quiet cafe in Brooklyn. The writer, Delia Hart, was sharp-eyed and calm-voiced. She didn't rush. Didn't pry. She let the silence do half the work. Halfway through the interview, she asked, Do you identify as a transgender woman now? I looked out the window. Cars passed. A kid rode by on a skateboard. An older couple held hands. I identify as someone who is hiding, I said finally. And now I'm not. She nodded. That's a beautiful start. A week later, the story went live. Becoming Valentina, the role that unmasked Arya Riley. My photo, taken by Zara, accompanied it. Hair down. No makeup. Just me. Real. Raw. Seen. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of messages poured in. Some hateful. But most? Kind. Hopeful. Grateful. And one in particular, surprising. At Robin Ellis Film. Arya. I saw your interview. I'm directing an indie drama next spring. We need a lead, trans woman, early 20s, complicated past. You'd be perfect. Want to audition? My jaw dropped. Zara read it over my shoulder. Girl, you're not a one-time story. You're just getting started. But before I could answer Robin, I needed to answer someone else. Callan. We hadn't spoken since the wrap party. Until he texted. Dinner. I hesitated. Then replied. Only if we don't talk about the movie. Then let's talk about you. He picked a quiet rooftop restaurant. The skyline stretched behind him, lit in gold and silver. When I arrived, his face lit up, not with shock, but recognition. Like he had always seen this version of me. Like he'd been waiting for the rest of me to catch up. You look happy, he said. I am, I replied. For the first time. Dinner was quiet. Laughter easy. No masks. At the end of the night, he reached for my hand. I didn't fall for Valentina, he whispered. I fell for the girl who played her. My heart skipped. And I let myself believe it was okay to feel this way. Weeks passed. I accepted the audition with Robin. I updated my social handles to reflect my new name, Arya Riley. And one evening, as I brushed my hair before bed, Zara peeked into my room. You know it's wild, she asked. What? I don't remember what Ethan's voice sounded like anymore. I smiled. Neither do I. The second film wrapped last week. It wasn't just a role. It was a reclamation. And I didn't have to get into character anymore. I was the character. The strength. The softness. The beauty. The ache. I wore all of it, not like a costume, but like skin. And one morning, I looked in the mirror. No wig. No makeup. Just me. And for the first time since this story began, I whispered. I didn't just become her. She was always me.